Welcome to The Inside View. I'm Ralph Renzulli, your host. As always, thank you for watching. This is my series of interviews with the candidates who are running for Common Council in this November's election. There are actually 12, 3 in each ward. The format is each candidate gets a 30-minute interview, and each candidate is asked the same set of questions, to be fair. With me today is Jonathan Shaffer, who's running for re-election in Ward number 1. Jonathan, thanks for coming in.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, you're very welcome. So let's start with a snapshot of your experience and background.
All right. Let me see. I moved to Little Falls in 1986 with my bride and I. We bought a house on Churchill Street. Been there ever since. Basically, a lot of my experience in town and community-wise, I coached some soccer. I did some community fundraising for sports boosters. And then I went on a planning board. From there, I was urged to run for the Common Council back in 2001. And then I took one term off when I got beat by a single vote in an election, and then I've been there ever since, and very much enjoying it. I've served on traffic committees, and now I'm on the finance committee, and I, like I say, if I didn't enjoy doing it, I wouldn't be doing it again.
I was going to ask you why you're running for re-election.
Exactly. I've been touting and saying that, things, even 10, 12 years ago when we were doing things like garbage collection and looking for unique and distinctive ways to save ourselves money, I've been trying to, scream to the heavens that, look at, our problems aren't just what's going on today. Our problems are in 5 years and 10 years. We were stripping out every single frill from the budget 10 years ago, and now look at us. Our budgets are pared down, and I think that the budget is the most important thing that the council can do. So what I like to, make sure is that everybody knows why we do the things we do and why we establish the budgets we establish and where we are going forward. We have some, good things that we're looking for to going forward. And like the mayor says, I'm going to tout her and say, we need to increase things on the revenue side because we can only cut and pare down the budget so much. We have services to provide for these people.
Okay. I think it would be good for the public to know exactly what an alderman does, especially an effective alderman.
All
Tell
right.
me about that.
An effective alderman does a lot of things. I remember city attorney, when I first started, said to me, look, you got to remember, this is a representative democracy. And while you listen to people and you get input from people and you do things, the choices are yours and yours alone. Your votes are yours and yours alone, and that's something that I took a lot of responsibility for also, to educate myself on issues and to make sure that I knew. And not that I don't listen to anybody who calls or sends an email or anything like that. Yes, I do listen to them, and I adhere to what they say, and I accept what they say, but it's not like a scorecard where if 3 people are for an issue and 2 people are against it, then I have to vote for it. You know what I mean? It's the decisions are the aldermen's and the representative because it's a representative democracy. So also, like I say, you've got to educate yourself and you got to involve yourself and you got to know exactly what you're talking about. One small issue that I always thought of was the fracking issue. When we were looking on banning whether we were going to allow fracked water in through our water system, because that's what other municipalities were doing at the time years ago. So I went in and I learned all I could about fracking, where it was happening, what was happening down in Pennsylvania and Ohio, the way they were treating fracked water, and then what was coming up from the surface, and every single thing. So at that point, we have to be very careful. So educating yourself is probably one of the most important things that you can do. If people knew the extent that aldermen like to educate themselves and educated themselves on every single issue, I think they'd understand them a lot more clearly.
Okay, well, that's good. What is it about your own personal experience or your own skill that allows you to be an effective alderman?
Well, one thing I'm not afraid to speak up and talk. We were doing budgets years ago, and one of the first terms that I served, we were doing budget meetings, and we would have all the council in on a budget meeting, and it was not an announced meeting. It was just a workshop where we would just come in and we'd go over line to line, and they were effective. but they were against open government laws, and they weren't right. And I remember one of the things I pride myself on is that I brought it right up in the council meeting that we can't, we can't allow these to happen anymore without announcing them and without allowing the public in. Now, the public doesn't necessarily have to get input in the meetings, but they're allowed in those meetings, and I'm proud of myself because we opened up those meetings to that point.
Okay. In your mind, what are the three top issues or problems that are facing Little Falls right now?
Well, they're all kind of budget related. The budget is the most important part. We've pined over this budget, these budgets for years. Some mayors, they like to believe that zero increases in budgets were effective, and I had to disagree with them. I think budgets should increase a small amount every single year, to tell you the truth, because everything goes up in price. Our health care is going up, gas is going up, people get higher salaries. The employees, the police, fire, and DPW, these are effective, and these are the most important things that services we provide. So we have to make sure that we're maintaining our budgets on a fiscally responsible manner. The other thing is, going back to fire and police, is personnel. It's just trying to get people in. It's so difficult for us to get and maintain a workforce for police and fire. We're constantly not losing, but we're filtering through, and workers are going to other opportunities for themselves, and you can't blame them because they're making more money. So we have to even be more creative going forward as far as enticing and keeping a good fire and police and DPW employees. The third one is making sure that we provide good services to the people. I've been in town for 39 years. You're a lifelong resident, I believe, right?
Yes.
We've been put it into the system, and we've put into the system for a long, long time. We deserve decent fire, decent DPW, and decent police protection. And if we're going to establish budgets that are going to do that, then those three issues and those three departments need to be effective at what they do. When we need an ambulance, when I need an ambulance at 45 Churchill Street, they better roll an ambulance at 45 Churchill Street. That's what I think, and I think every citizen deserves that.
Okay. So you talked about being an effective alderman. How does an effective alderman impact those three issues that you just mentioned?
We do it by communicating with department heads and staying in good communication. I know the police chief well. I know the fire chief well. I know Jay Sullivan very, very well. They're good people, and communicating with them. Number one is communicating with the people who elect you and put you in. If there's problems, questions, or concerns, you address those concerns not only with them, but with the department heads and with the people that are need to affect it. Let's also mention codes also, because codes issues can be very, very important, and those are more pertinent to people who are right next door to this codes issue. You know what I mean? As long as it's not in my backyard, then I don't care about it. But when it is in your front yard or right across the street, then it stands out like a sore thumb. So codes issues are also important. So it's communicating between the electorate and between the citizens and between department heads and, of course, city government.
Okay. So drilling down a little bit on Ward 1, what are the three issues facing Ward 1 that you're aware of?
Well, Ward 1 can be difficult. It's part of Main Street, going up Ann Street to Monroe Street. Obviously, the Zeta project was pretty important, and it seems to be on hold for right now, but I'm not sure exactly what's going to go on with that. Penrose is a very patient company. I've read cases where it's taken them 5 to 10 years to get things settled one way or the other through courts and through appeals processes. So I'm not sure if they're still interested in that process. They haven't said that they're not, so I have to assume that they may be. So I think that's an important issue. And obviously, when that issue came up, I mean, Ward 1 was right dab in the middle of it, and there weren't very many residents of that area who were for that project. So, I mean, we had to correspond and make sure what was going to happen and what was going to go on. That we're very hard on that and been tough on that. Okay. The other issues, and again, it goes right back to streets being paved and water. water is a huge issue. I probably should have brought it up earlier, but you look at all the municipalities in this valley. I mean, all our water systems are all 125, 150 years old. These things are ancient and old, and they're all ceramic. They're broken down. We leak enough water every single day. We could supply another municipality with that water. So people want good, clean water. They don't want lead in their line. They want, things that have to be carefully done and corrected. So, I mean, and we're getting to that point. We're working hard on water. We're getting grants, and we're doing more filtering, and hopefully we're going to open up and maybe even draw our water, because we have great water. Little Falls has great water, and make it a revenue base.
Infrastructure, very important, right?
Yes.
How do you, not only now, but in the future, how do you intend to stay in touch with your constituents in Ward 1? How do you do that?
Well, I'd like to do a lot of things. I'll accept any phone call anytime, and I don't mind at all. I'd like to see a few more public forums, maybe quarterly, maybe every year. I'd like to see more, especially going through the budget process. We have a budget hearing every year, public hearing. Most years, hardly anybody shows up, but I'd like to get more and more people involved, even if it's on a ward basis with the aldermen, and just to sit down and talk and go over these issues. Again, the higher and the more that people can understand it, what the budget issues are, the more they'll understand, the reasons why we need to do things, and why. I mean, something is like the pool issue last year. I mean, the money was running out. We had to scrape together and get and reduce other essential services and essential things from other from other budget line items, to ensure that the pool got back into the budget. And thank God it did. It was one of the hottest summers we had. So,
yeah, got a lot of use, didn't it?
It did. It got a lot of use. Yes.
Okay.
So
you're running against two other people.
Mm-hmm.
So there's three actually in each ward, which is pretty good this year.
Yes.
I don't know if that's ever happened before, but there are three.
Not that I've seen.
Yeah.
This is the second election since I've been in where I've had an opposition at all.
Okay. So what sets you apart from the two other people that are running?
Well, needless to say, experience. I mean, many, many years in this community. I actually have in my family, my mother was an O'Brien, and my grandfather was always community involved. My uncle was a Herkimer County legislator for a good deal of time. So we have some public service in the family, and it's just something that I kind of tended to. Mm-hmm. I was urged to run back in 2001. And like I say, or 2011, excuse me, and I've enjoyed it ever since. I just like to get out there, and I like to speak with people, and I like to run traffic meetings, and to be on the finance committee, and do important things, and do important research, so that when we get to the meeting or we get to different sessions, we know what we're talking about, and we can have informed decision making in the process.
Okay.
So I think I hope that's something that sets me apart from people. I'm not sure. I know Sam some, and I know the other candidate. I don't know him that well, so I'm not sure exactly what his background is. So.
Okay. Obviously, an older person has a certain set of responsibilities in city government, and the mayor has a certain set of responsibilities and authority that goes along with that. Tell me about the relationship between an alderman and a mayor throughout the year. How does that? What's the ideal way to handle that, do you think?
Well, what I like to do is, and it's been nice because this particular mayor for the past term, I try to meet with her as much. The summer I did not meet as much as I'd like to, but usually it's about once a week, once every 2 weeks. I'll sit down with the mayor, and we'll talk over every single issue, what the status is, where we're going, what we think we may want to do, and inform ourselves about each other's opinions and our views on whatever given issue it may be at the time. So, and I like the openness of this mayor because, like I say, I can just about walk up to the chamber or walk up to her office and she'll say, "Come on and sit down," and then we'll start and we'll have a good 15, 30-minute discussion about city issues. And I think that's very important. I think every alderman should, at one point, sit down with the mayor and go over issues. And there's no reason why an alderman or two can't just on their own, just call and talk about an issue every now and then. Me and Greg Santry years ago, God rest Greg Santry's soul, he was a good man. And he was, at the time, he was a Democrat and I was a registered Republican, actually. But yet we agreed on so many issues that we would call and we'd talk about issues before the meeting and beforehand. And it's that kind of open communication kind of run, like what you say, well, like we said with the mayor. And that's what helps open people's minds up. Mm-hmm. I mean, I may not agree with you, but if I don't know your opinion and understand your opinion, then I really don't have a right to downcast it or look down on you.
Yeah. There seems to be some people in the city who think there's not enough transparency and not enough communication. And one example was the budget process this year. There were some people who either didn't ask those questions or were just not happy with the way it was handled. So it sounds like you're one of those who feel that the mayor has quite a bit of transparency and is a good communicator. Am I right?
There is not a question that I ask that I don't get answers from the mayor. She hides nothing. Every month we get a budget report, tells us where our percentages lie, what's over, what's under on every single line item in the budget we just approved, that time before. So anytime I do that, I always highlight a few items and I'll go right to the mayor and I'll say, "What's this right here? What's this right here? What are we doing about this?" And she gets answers to questions no matter what it is. What I think sometimes people, I tell people, come see how the sausage is made. Everybody wants to eat the sausage. Nobody wants to watch it being made because it's an ugly process sometimes. It's not clean. It's not pure. You know what I mean? Winston Churchill says, democracy's the worst form of government in the world except for all the others, meaning that it needs work and it needs involvement, it needs people. I don't mind people coming forward and saying we're not transparent enough, but come forward and ask the questions. Come to the meetings, come to the public hearing, come to traffic meetings and urban renewal meetings and everything else so we can open up this process and we can answer these questions so that there's no doubt in people's mind. Call your alderman. Whatever I get a call on, if I got to go down with a cup of coffee with Teresa Lee on a certain morning to explain budgets to her, then that's what we do. It's not a complicated process. All you got to do is just call, ask your questions, and we'll get the answers to you.
So you're saying that people complain a lot, but they really don't.
I don't want to say complain because that tends to be negative. I just want to see people get more openly involved and more rationally and sanely involved also. You know what I mean? Keep even keel, keep a nice cool head, and then ask the questions that you need answered, and we'll get you answers.
Well, maybe the fact that we have 3 in each ward running, maybe things are going in that direction.
I think so, and that's a good sign. As I say to people, go to meetings, ask your questions. We had a traffic meeting for the Engle Street parking on 2nd Street by the downtown project, the DRI project there, where they wanted to change it to Engle because they're having a problem with percentage of parking spaces and we packed that place. And there were people asking questions all night long. It was like a 2-hour meeting. I'm not sure, I didn't time it, but it seemed like it was a pretty long meeting. But like I said at that meeting, man, I'd love to see this because we're getting the involvement. We're getting some opposing views. If you don't have opposing views, then you really don't have a democracy. You don't really, you know what I mean? That's the whole thing about it.
Yeah, good point. What's your take on the homeless population in Little Falls?
Obviously, we'd like to see it reduced to zero. I think that as far as we can provide services for them directly, I think we should try to help them do whatever we can, steer them to the people who can help them and who are financed and budgeted to help them. There's a lot of people that I don't want. I hate the term homeless by choice, but I think that they don't want a lot of the help that people are offering them. They're comfortable in what they're doing, and I mean, people don't want to see it, and people don't want. But we have to address it, and we have to take care of it. I'm not sure if it's how rampant of a problem it is, what the numbers are, because we really don't get a real good grasp of the numbers. But obviously, we have a lot of outdated and housing that with nobody in it. And I know that there's a few people staying here and there, and we just have to address those issues one by one and go forward from there, and steer these people to the services that can actually help them.
Tough problem to deal with.
Yes, it is.
And we're not alone.
You're right, exactly. Every community is looking at it, right?
If there's a critical issue and there's another council member who vehemently disagrees with you on something, and you said earlier relationships are very important, how do you deal with that person?
Well,
what's your approach?
Like I said before, I want to know the what, where, and why, and how that person feels, why they feel the way they do. I want to not accept their point of view, but I want to learn their point of view and where it comes from, so I understand their motivation behind it. The majority of the answers to these problems in politics and in government, the majority of the answers are in the middle, and that means it's compromise. You know what I mean? The extremities of conservative and liberal. You know what I mean? You're not answering a lot of problems. The majority of the problems and the answers are in the middle, and that's where you have to come together. You know what I mean? He's got to accept a little bit of me. He or she has to accept a little bit of me, and I have to accept a little bit of them. So I think that educating yourself to your opponent's viewpoint and why he believes that is as important as me educating myself on my own viewpoint.
But you can listen and perhaps change your position.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Looking ahead, where would you like to see our city 5 years from now?
5 years from now, I'd love to see as many of the properties in town rehabilitated or torn down if they need to be. Furnace Street has a few properties on there that they're beyond hope. But we just had one do a complete renovate with siding and windows. It's a large place. It's got to be 4 apartments, I believe, on it. But a half a block up, you got that old gray house where the roof collapsed and the buildings, and they've got structures on the outside of it. We got to tear down and destroy what we need to destroy, and we got to rehab what we can rehab and work on housing going forward. As far as Main Street goes, Main Street's been a tough issue for many, many years. As many businesses that I'd like to see come in, whatever aid and help that we can get for Main Street businesses, whether they're established or whether they're coming in, I think we should do. It'd be nice to be able to, to clean up Main Street and to fill those storefronts. That's really what I mean. Mm-hmm. Other than that, we got to stay on this budget process the way we're doing it. We have to super examine our budget spending and what we're doing, and we got to increase the revenue side. We got to get properties back onto the book. We've got to, expand and, do as many things as we can to get our tax revenue up so that we can afford more police and fire and pay them a little more and have better services. Otherwise, in the next 10 years, look at the paring down that the budget has taken in the last 10 years. We can't afford to do that in the next 10 years, or we won't have a budget left to pare down. There won't be anything left. So I think we have to, fiscally, we have problems with the housing. We have some problems that we need to look forward to in the next 5 years and try to solve. And then obviously, I think Main Street and Ann Street. Well, I mean businesses. I shouldn't just say Main Street. Also, Ann Street's a pretty good hub of business. Also, that we should need to focus on. Also, so
okay, good. So, give me some final thoughts on your candidacy and.
Well, you know what? I want to thank you for the interview. It was very, very good. And I want to thank the people of Little Falls. I really, obviously, come to love this city. Needless to say, and I love being involved. I love being a part and an important part of as important a part of the community as I can be. And going forward, I want to see this place improve, and I want to see it thrive, and I want to see it get better and better. When people come in, you know, I have some friends, and they come in for the Cheese Festival every year, and they live downstate. They're 2.5, 3 hours away, and so they love to come up, and they love the Cheese Festival, and people come here and they marvel at the scenery and the housing and the Victorian houses, and you know, there's so many positives in this city that people can adhere themselves to. And so my final thoughts are, I'd love to see more and more people come to this town, settle, buy property, and enjoy themselves.
Great. Thanks for taking the time. I think it's important that the public lay their eyes on people like you and hear what you have to say.
Thank you very much,
You're
Ralph.
very welcome. That's Jonathan Shaffer running in Ward number 1. Thank you for watching, and please exercise your right to vote. Thank you.